Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Welcome back to day 26 of the viral Spirituality Bites. Alhamdulillah, we've been covering some of the inner dimensions of fasting as mentioned by Imam Ghazali. He mentioned that at level 1, it was preventing the stomach and the private parts from fulfilling their desires. And then level 2 was everything in level 1, but also fasting from any sort of sin and preventing one's 5 senses, etc., from falling into any sin. And then we mentioned some common sins that people fall into. For example, the sins of the tongue, backbiting, slander, forwarding false information, etc. We also discussed in detail, some level of detail, how dangerous backbiting is and why it's dangerous, and the concept of hukukul ibad and the fact that you have to have the person who you wronged forgive you instead of just dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it starts involving human beings, it becomes more difficult. And we want these things to be resolved in this dunya rather than in the akhirah, because it will be a very heavy price to pay over there compared to if we got it resolved in the dunya. It may seem difficult, right? It may seem like you have to suffer a little bit of embarrassment, but it's much better than what will happen in the hereafter if we were to be taken account for it. So we also discussed the idea of anger and how this is also one of the common sins that a person may fall into during fasting. And we mentioned the fact that the Prophet ﷺ said that the strong one is not the one who overcomes the people by his strength, but rather the strong one is the one who is able to control himself while in anger. He has the inner strength to control their desire to get angry and to lash out at people and to shout and to hit people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all strong spiritually as well. And then the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a separate hadith the different categories of people in terms of how quick they are to anger and how quick they are to let go of that anger. Right? So some people are slow to get angry, but and then they're also quick to calm down. Right? So they get angry quickly, and they also recover quickly as well. And then some people are quick to anger, but slow to calm down. That's the worst kind, right? Where over any small trivial matter, they'll get angry. And then, for example, they'll stop talking to the other person for like a year or 5 years. And this happens, right? We know people in like our families or extended families where they don't talk to each other and they've simply just cut off their relation with the other person. And this is a very, very dangerous thing. And it's actually a very cop-out kind of thing to do. So you don't want to deal with the situation. You don't want to resolve it. And it shows that you just don't care. When a person cares about something, they care about resolving it. So for example, it's common knowledge to anyone that in a marriage there will be disagreements. In any sort of family there will be disagreements. Right? Between siblings, between parents and children, and between the spouses, there will be disagreements, there will be fights, there will be arguments. But it's how you deal with them. It doesn't mean that there is no love in that relationship, right? Because if there's no fighting, it means that there's no love in that relationship. Why? Because the person just doesn't care. Okay, if that person is doing this or saying this or they disagree with me, I just don't care, whatever, let's just move on. And this used to be fairly common in the previous generations, right? Where people were just in this sort of marriage, and they didn't really think of the spouse as their friend per se. They just had to kind of go through the motions. And this is why perhaps people would think, oh, they never fought, so they must have loved each other a lot. Well, maybe not, right? And people think, I need a spouse like the kind of spouses that they had back home or 50 years ago. You probably couldn't live with that, because you want someone that will be a friend to you, not someone that will just be like a servant or a maid, right? Or someone that just goes to work and comes home and goes to sleep, and there's no family life, and there's no interaction, and there's no talk and things like that. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the category that is slow to get angry and quick to calm down. Now, Imam Ghazali then goes on to describe the components of level 2. And we're talking about level 2 of fasting. We haven't even talked about level 3 yet. So level 1, so component number 1 was what we discussed earlier: lowering the gaze, protecting the tongue from harmful or even vain talk, something that doesn't benefit you in the dunya or the akhirah, and then guarding all the limbs from sins. That's the first component. Component number 2 is not overeating at suhoor or iftar. So obviously, since level 1 was simply just not indulging in eating and drinking and marital relations, level number 2 also incorporates this idea that we're not trying to feed the nafs. And the reason why he mentions this, there are several reasons. Number 1 is that it brings about laziness. Right? We all must have encountered in our life occasions on which we have eaten too much. It makes you just want to go into a food coma, right? You just want to fall back and maybe loosen your belt a little bit and go to sleep. And even in Punjabi, they have like a specific word for it. Cookie chad gaya. They say like, I've become super, like I'm getting sleepy, right? Is that because of eating so much? So it's something that all of us can relate to, right? So he says that if you overeat at iftar, you will not be able to make full use of your body until Fajr. Like essentially, your body will go into like this sort of digestion mode, right? And we know from medicine that when you eat a lot, all of a sudden, like your body starts redirecting blood towards your digestive system so that it can start processing all that food that you just threw in there. And one of the symptoms of that is that you'll start feeling cold after you have a big meal. If you overeat at suhoor, you will not be able to make full use of your body until Zohar time. And when we're talking about full use of your body, it means exerting your body in worship, right? Being able to stand for Taraweeh, being able to stand for Salah. If we eat too much, we will oversleep. We won't be able to wake up for Tahajjud. If we oversleep, we won't be able to wake up for Suhoor in time. We won't be able to sometimes even wake up for Fajr at the proper time, or we'll miss the Jama'ah. So the idea is that the ability to control one's appetite, this is something good, right? This is something that we're aiming to get at. And this is what differentiates us from animals. Because animals, if you look at it, they're simply just like a nafs, right? It just wants to eat, drink, and procreate, and that's it. This is they have no excuse. I mean, they have an excuse, right? Which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't given them that ability to overcome those desires. We as human beings have been given this ability to tame and overcome our carnal desires. And if we're able to do so, we have the ability to even surpass the angels. What does that mean? The angels cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are created such. They are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that they do not have this thing called free will, right? They don't have this ability to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Human beings have been given this choice, right? They've been given free will that if we wish to, we may obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we wish, we may disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Na'udhu billah. And this is why we will be rewarded or punished for our deeds. is that we were given this choice. So if we were to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in spite of all our base desires, that would entitle us to a rank greater than the angels, because the angels had no choice but to obey. If we willingly obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will have the ability to surpass the angels in rank. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do that. Right? And essentially in Ramadan, we are becoming more angelic in our qualities, right? We are trying to stay away from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Angels don't eat, angels don't drink, angels don't sleep. We try to do less of all those three things, right? Angels don't procreate, angels don't get married. We also try to do all of those in a lesser degree. So we're kind of becoming, and we're having that angelic side of us shine out more during the month of Ramadan. And if we don't, we kind of become more animalistic. We become more nafsi, right? And he mentions that the whole purpose is to feel hunger so that one can develop willpower and realize one's true state of need. You realize how weak you are and how needy you are, right? That if you just don't have one meal, how weak you become and how insignificant you are, right? Compared to, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink, he doesn't need to sleep. He is free from all these things, so it kind of makes you realize who you are versus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It makes you feel like you're needy. It makes you feel like a faqir. And by faqir, I don't mean the Urdu meaning of faqir. Faqir in Urdu means a poor person, right? But essentially, if you look at it in the root meaning, it means a needy person, right? A needy person, which is true. يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. Right? O mankind, you are fuqara, you are needy people. You need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-ghani, he's the enriched, free of need. Right? Al-hamid, the praiseworthy. So if we sleep all day, when we eat such a huge suhoor that we barely even get a chance to feel hungry, then we're kind of defeating that goal of fasting, which is to feel hungry. Right? That feeling of hunger is important. And it allows you to develop willpower. It allows you to develop taqwa. It allows you to realize how needy you are. Number 3, and this is the last component of level 2, which is the uneasiness of the heart. The heart should have ittirab, as he puts it. It's I felt it difficult to translate this word, but your heart should be in a state of uneasiness. Almost like, very uneasy at the time of iftar, wondering whether or not the fast was accepted. And because we went through this entire day's worth of effort and toil and difficulty, if it's not accepted, then what good was it? If it's not accepted, then what good was it? And we should understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need our acts of worship. He is absolutely free of any need of worship. If everybody was to become as pious as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it would not increase the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. And if everybody was to become as evil as Iblis or Fir'aun, it would not decrease the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even in the slightest bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is independent of whatever we do. And over here, there is a balance to be struck. Right? There should be a certain level of fear that perhaps my fast was not accepted, because we should be cognizant of all the mistakes and shortcomings that we incurred throughout the day. Right? And yet at the same time, we should also have our gaze firmly stuck on the mercy of and forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So we should be between this state of hope and fear, bain al-khawfi wal-raja, which is what the ulama put it. And this is basically iman, that we're afraid of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also at the same time we're hopeful that He will forgive us. We're afraid that our fast will not be accepted because of all the shortcomings that we're aware of, and of all the shortcomings that we're actually not even aware of, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was aware of. Yet at the same time, we know how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and how Ghafoor, and how Rahim, and how Tawwab He is, right? He's Ghaffar, He's Rahman, He's Rahim, and He's Afu. And this is something that I forgot to mention actually, which reminds me, which is that tonight is the 27th night of Ramadan, inshallah. And according to some ulama, this night holds the highest chance of it being Laylatul Qadr. Okay, according to some ulama. So we should treat every night as if it could be Laylatul Qadr. Right? And especially tonight, we should try to do something extra, inshallah, to try to gain the reward of this night. And we should make the dua, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. And if you want to include everyone else in your du'as as well, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. A little bit of grammar will help you out there, inshallah. So these are the three components of level 2. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to attain these levels. Now, this idea of acceptance, right? And this idea of making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he mentioned specifically that at the time of iftar, because at the time of iftar is the time when the deed is nearing its completion. And this idea that at the time of completion of a deed is the time when one should strive to make sure that that deed is accepted, and is a time of acceptance of dua. If you look in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. When Ibrahim ﷺ was raising up the foundations of the house, he was building the Kaaba, along with his son Ismail ﷺ, they were making dua. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. O our Rabb, accept this deed from us. Accept this service from us. Indeed, you and you alone are the all-hearing and the all-knowing. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So there we see Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi completing the deed of building the Kaaba as per the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as the deed is nearing completion, they are using this window of acceptance to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one, they make dua for the acceptance of the deed itself. And this is something that we should do at iftar time. As our deed of fasting is nearing its completion, we should make sure that we make dua that, Ya Allah, accept this deed now. We completed the deed through your tawfiq. Now, through your mercy, we ask that you accept this deed. And this is the same for all of our acts of ibadah. At the time when the deeds are completed, this is a window of opportunity to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an accepted dua, inshallah. This is why we make dua after our salah, right? This is why we make dua after all our deeds of worship, because we recognize that this is a window of opportunity to communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a manner that's very readily accepted. ثلاثة لا ترد دعوتهم الصائم حتى يفطر والإمام العادل ودعوة المظلوم يرفعها الله فوق الغمام ويفتح لها أبواب السماء ويقول الرب وعزتي لأنصرنك ولو بعد حين. There are three people, and I wanted to talk about the first category only today because of shortage of time, whose supplication is not rejected. This deed, this supplication, this dua is accepted. Number one, the fasting person when he breaks his fast. Allahu Akbar. This is why we leave a few minutes before iftar to make dua, to use this opportunity to make an accepted dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you look at the duas of Ibrahim alayhi salam mentioned there, right, those are some amazing duas where he's asking for the Prophet ﷺ to be sent amongst the people and the duties of the Prophet ﷺ that we mentioned earlier, right? And so many beautiful duas that we see them as accepted, right? So this is our chance to really exert ourselves and make dua before iftar and also tonight. Please make sure you keep this needy servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your duas, and don't forget the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa akhiru da'wana